explorers that went out and spiked them flags down all over. So you got 13 original colonies on the East Coast, the Atlantic Ocean side. And they wanted to become independent, sovereign countries. Could you imagine what North America continent would be like if they didn't have the foresight? It was brilliant, actually. They're so smart. And to become united together. But if there were each one an independent, sovereign country, North America would be chaos, and it would be completely different. The world would be different today if they hadn't have done what they did. And the world today truly, truly is a better place because of the United States. And we don't get enough credit for that. I really don't believe that we do. And that isn't right. And I think the main reason why is jealousy. There's a lot of people that envy and are jealous of the United States, but they shouldn't, because we're not an aggressive warmonger country, despite what you see on the views. If you look underneath the news, you'll see the real story, just like what happened down in Venezuela. I have many friends from Venezuela. They are thrilled. They're ecstatic that we did what we did to free them up so that they can finally, for, I don't know, last 40 years or so under the thumb of a dictator. And yeah, things are turning around in Venezuela. And we went in there to help them because they were pleading for our help. And because that dictator and the thugs in there actually was at war with the United States. Different kind of war than with guns and bullets. But they were shipping drugs up here galore, killing Americans, that we said, enough. We can't take it anymore. And we're not going to allow this to continue to happen. So that, I don't want to go down to politics, but yeah. Same with Cuba. You know, Cuba was a U.S. territory after the Spanish-American War. Cuba wanted to become an independent, sovereign country. We said, okay, we'll let you go there. I think Cuba would have been a whole heck of a lot better off today if they had remained in the United States. But that's the path they wanted to go. And we said, okay, that can happen. And we let that happen. And but you all know what's happened. I don't have to go down that. And guess what's happening now? There's big, big things going on in Cuba. They don't like the way things have been going. So we'll see what happens in Cuba. They might just come back into the family. I don't know. And if that would happen, we would love to have Cuba in the family again, because the people are incredible. You know, look how many Cubans after Fidel Castro took over and they didn't want to be under that. And they bailed out, came over to Florida. What do they call Miami? Little Havana? Well, guess what? It ain't too little anymore. What a magnificent, beautiful, beautiful city Miami is. And yeah, we love Cubans. And Marco Rubio, all his family, Cuban, just like my family. We're all Nordic, Swedish predominantly, Samis. And we're so proud of our heritage. He's going to be a He's just an incredible, incredible guy. We'll talk about him in another video because I'm so impressed. So glad with what's going on in this country. Okay. 13 original colonies. They had the foresight. They met in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and they got together and said, you know what? We'd be much better off if instead of being 13 independent, sovereign countries, They unite together to form this new great concept in this great country, the United States of America. You got Little Rhode Island was the smallest colony back then. They're still the smallest state today in the United States. And then you got New York. You know, you go on Pennsylvania. You know the 13 colonies. They're so much better off united together. And that's what they did. And they drafted the Declaration of Independence. And they sent that over to the king. And they said, we're now become one independent sovereign country, the United States of America. The king looked at this. I don't know if he ripped his up a copy or what. We still have original copies of the Declaration of Independence. You can see one in Independence Hall in Philadelphia if you're ever there. I think there's one in the Smithsonian, one of the greatest museums in the world. All our national archives and that, they're stored there. And yeah, it's a great museum. So, King of England is looking at this. He says, this ain't going to happen. Well, these guys are crazy. He says, that's our land. And called up his leaders and says, you get the redcoats and you put them into boats and you send them over there and you put a squash to this rebellion. That's what it is. It's a rebellion. And we're not going to stand for it. And that's exactly what they did. But thank God Almighty, we were led by a brilliant General George Washington, who rallied the troops. It didn't matter if you were a farmer, a banker, a butcher, a baker, or a candlestick maker. If you could walk and carry a gun, we need you in the Continental Army to defeat the redcoats, and that's exactly what happened. And the Brits, I think they were shell-shocked. They were dumbfounded. They said, how in the world did this ever happen? That this ragtag group of misfit, revolutionary rebels, they called us, defeated the greatest military power on the entire planet at that time. And we became the United States of America, and George Washington went on to become our very first president. And we're going to celebrate that event this whole year. The Brits didn't give us the respect that we should have had as an independent country. And what happened to the United States? We took off like a rocket, not like a slow boat or a ship or a train, like a rocket, even though they didn't have rockets back then. It's like when I was a little kid, I had my little toy rocket, and I'd just go out in the backyard, and my brothers and my cousins, we all had our little rockets, and we lit the match and lit that fuse, and off it went. Where did it go? Why, we thought it went into outer space. And I don't see it, and then all of a sudden, here it comes back down with a parachute. That's what happened to the United States of America. It took off like a rocket, and it's been nonstop ever since. We grew so quickly, militarily, economically, politically, and it was just people from all over the planet said, wow, do you see what's going on over there in America, in the United States? And we want in on the gig. And they just kept coming and coming and coming. And we were all, come on over. We need you. We want you. And it's that way to this very day. Don't believe on the news what you see about the borders and that. We want immigration. We want people to come. You're welcome to come, but you have to come through legally. You wouldn't want that in your country, and we don't want it here. Those days are over. You're welcome to come, just like my family came. And not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, millions and millions of people from all over the planet came to the United States. That's why we are the melting pot. I'm going to go over those numbers here real quick. And that's what makes this country. Right here in my neighborhood, there's over 450 homes in this development that I live in. There's people right here from every race, religion, color, creed, continent that you could think of. And guess what? We live in peace and harmony. That's a fact. Listen how peaceful it is out here. School bus went up this morning to pick up all the kids. They'll come back this afternoon to bring them home. Moms and dads are out working their jobs. You know, old grandpas like myself were sitting on our front porches rocking and having our fika and mowing the grass. Or just a couple weeks ago, we were shoveling snow. Yeah, it's no different right now today than it was 26 years ago. This is reality. This is real America. It's not, you have the right to protest in this country. That's one of the great things about this country. It's freedom. But think about this. Back in the colonial days, I don't know what the population was, but today there are 50 stars on that flag. And we have 14 territories around the planet. If you see a protest or a riot, usually 50, 100 people with their pots and pans and banging on them with their wooden spoons or blowing their whistles. And, I don't know why some of them, they get upset, so they think, I'm going to get a lot of attention. And the film crews are happy to be out there filming everything, and look what's going on in there. And it's just chaos, and it could be the furthest thing from the truth. Let's say there's 500 people in these protests in any field, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people. Let's take it up to 500,000 people. 500,000 people protesting what's going on. Well, guess what? Do the math. Take 500,000 and divide it by 350 million. You're talking less than 0.001% of the population. That means that 99.9% of the rest of us are living life, loving life, mowing the grass, rocking in the rocking chair, and life is wonderful. That's reality. It really, truly is. And that's what's made this country so magnificent and great as it is. And I'm going to sow the 13 colonies. George Washington went on to become our first president. Now there's been 47 presidents since that time. Donald Trump's our current president. Each state is uniquely different. There's big states, little states. Little Rhode Island is the smallest state to this very day. Alaska, we purchased Alaska from Russia. Thank God Almighty that, just think how massive Russia is. When you go from New York to California, across the mainland, USA, North American continent, there are 4 time zones. I'm not talking Soviet Union days. I'm talking right now to Russia. I think there are, how many time zones are across Russia? Is it 13 or 15? It's one of them two. 13 time zones. Just imagine. It's massive. Well, guess what? Russia used to be in North America. They owned Alaska. And back in the 1800s, I don't know what was going on in Russia, but they decided they no longer needed Alaska, and they wanted to raise capital, and they said, hey, Alaska's for sale. And we put of course we'll buy Alaska. Our U.S. Secretary of State, William Seward, said, yeah, we'll buy Alaska. And he put that deal together. Thank God Almighty he did. There was a lot of Americans that didn't like the idea. They said, why in the world do you want to buy Alaska? That big frozen hunk of ice. Russia doesn't want it, and we don't want it either. They called it Seward's folly because they said he's crazy. Well, thank God Almighty he bought Alaska and put that together, and just look at what Alaska is today. I think Alaska is a whole heck of a lot better off being in the family, being one of us, one of the stars on the flag now, star number 49. Yeah, I could tell you a lot of other things. I've been to Alaska. In fact, I've been to every single state in the United States many times, except for one. I have not been to Hawaii. And I can tell you, it's no different wherever you are in each state. Every state is so proud to be in who they are and their state history and heritage and all that, just like we are here in West Virginia. You can call us hillbillies, you can call us mountaineers, you can call us hicks, you can call us anything you want. We're proud to be West Virginians, but we're super proud to be one of the stars on that flag. And you can't go anywhere in the world and people don't. Have you ever heard these words? Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, almost heaven. Yeah, you probably have, because I've traveled a lot. I've been around, and there isn't anywhere you go and people don't know that song. It's a brilliant song, and it brings a tear to our eyes when we sing that song, and we sing it a lot here in West Virginia, but they sing it a lot in all the other states and countries around the world. So that makes us proud to be West Virginians. But West Virginia, we wouldn't be a fraction, if even survived, if we were an independent sovereign country. I honestly, we wouldn't make it. We couldn't make it because we all benefit from one another. And that's what makes this country as great and magnificent as it is. No other country on the planet is similar to what we have here. And out of the 50 states that we are today, there's only 2 that used to be their own independent sovereign nation. You know what 2 of those are? Play Jeopardy again. And Texas. Just like the 13 original colonies were territories of England, the Brits, Texas was once a part of Mexico. But for whatever reason, they decided, they didn't want to no longer be part of Mexico. And Mexico, our neighbor to the south, they have their problems again, like all countries, and we have our differences over different things. But they're great neighbors, great friends, great partners. We love Mexico. They love us, despite what you see on the news. And, I've been to Mexico many times in my life. And many Americans go to Mexico for vacation. And every single town in the United States has a Mexican restaurant. I can guarantee you that. And they're incredible, awesome people. And we love to eat Mexicans. Who doesn't like a taco or fajita? Yeah. So we love Mexico, but for whatever reason, Texas said, you don't want to be a part of Mexico anymore. And they broke away and they became their own independent sovereign nation. The same flag that flies in Texas today, the Lone Star State, the Lone Star flag, is the exact same flag they had when they were independent sovereign country. And they got it all. They got seaports. They got huge, massive minerals, oil and other things, farmland. Every state has their own farms, but Texas has more than anywhere else. They're the biggest cattle beef producing state in the United States, and probably one in the whole world. Um, they got it all going together. But you know what? They looked out and they said, as the United States now is growing from the East Coast to the West, because more and more people kept coming and coming and coming, and countries growing and expanding. And Texas, they said, we like what we see there in the United States. And you know what? We think we would be better off to be one of them than to continue on be our own independent sovereign country. So that's exactly what they did. They came in and joined the family. Thank you, Texas, for having the foresight and the brilliant strategy to come into the family. And think about this. If Texas today was still an independent sovereign country, they would rank in the top 10 most prosperous economic GDP countries on the entire planet. That's huge. Yeah, bigger than most countries in the EU when we're going to talk about the differences and similarities. So that's a fact. Texas will be in the top 10. California, just think about this. If California was an independent sovereign nation, they would rank in the top 5 biggest countries on the entire planet. Who's number 1? Of course, it's the United States of America. By far, number 1. Who's number 2? China. Who's number 3? Russia. Who's number 4? India. Who would be number 5? California. Think about that. But they're not one of them. They're one of us. They're in the family. They benefit from everything that even little Rhode Island kicks into the pot, and we benefit from everything that they put into the pot to make this country so magnificent and awesome that they are. And there's one other state that was an independent sovereign country. You know who that is? Hawaii. They actually were a kingdom. They had a king and a queen. They came into the family in the 1800s, or territory for a long time, and then they became a state. They're star number 50 on the flag, the last state to come in. And we love Hawaii. If you want to have a great tropical vacation, go to Hawaii. Go to any of the states that have, along the Gulf of America, or the, Southern California, Florida, which was part of, Spanish territory for years and years and years. Louisiana was French. Go to Puerto Rico. Go to Guam. Go to the Virgin Islands. Yeah. Speaking of the Virgin Islands, how did the United States acquire the Virgin Islands? Why are they a territory now? And man, what a beautiful, beautiful place that is. I think there's 85,000 people in the Virgin Islands today. It's just gorgeous. Well, how did we get them? What were they called before they were called the U.S. Virgin Islands? Any of you know? How about any of you people in Greenland? Do you know? Because it's a lot of similarities there. Yeah. They were once a part of a territory of Denmark. But they didn't call it the Virgin Islands, and they called them Danish West Indies. Why were they called the Indies? It's the same reason why the Indians were called Indians here. It's because when the early explorers came there, they had no idea where they are. They didn't have GPS satellite tracking like we do today. They got their sextants and compasses out, and they're looking at the stars, and they're trying to figure out, where are we? And they said, you know what? We think we must be in, because when they came here, spiked their flags down, and ooh, wait a minute. You see some people over there. There's people over there, and there's people up there and there and that. Who are those people? And they're trying to figure out where they're at. And they said, we must be in India, right next door to Pakistan. Yeah, that India. So they said, therefore, those guys, they must be Indians. Well, they've been Indians since then, and they're Indians now, and they'll be Indians forevermore. And that's okay. It's just a name. Each one belongs to their own tribe, and very, very proud of their heritage and their tribe. But they're okay with being called Indians, because I've had a lot of discussions with this with my friends. In fact, more than anything, they're upset with the fact that political correctness, DEI, and all that stuff. A lot of our sports teams were named after, they had a lot of great leaders and chiefs and all that stuff. Very, very proud. And don't think that they haven't contributed so much to this country. I'll talk about that in another video. But so in sports, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. You got the Atlanta Braves. We used to have the Cleveland Indians or the Washington Redskins. And people say, oh, we got to change the name because now, when they dropped the Redskins, they didn't even know what to call themselves. For the first year or two, they were called the Washington Football Team. How stupid and crazy is that? Yeah. And today they're the Commanders. Well, I can tell you this. There's a lot of people that want and wish and hope that they were back to be the Redskins, as they've been for a long, long, long time. And all my friends in the tribes, they said the same thing. Yeah, that's no different than my grandma always used to tell me, you got the Sami eyes. I said, huh? She says, you got the Sami eyes. What are the Sami eyes, Grandma? She says, well, it looks like you're squinting all the time. And I said, why is that? Well, when we've been living up in the Arctic for 10,000 years and the wind is howling and the snow is blowing and that, and you're walking in there and the snow's blowing in your eyes, you got to squint so you don't get blinded. And that's why you got the Sami eyes. I love the Sami eyes. Thank you, Grandma, for giving me the Sami eyes. And that's what makes this country so great. There's so many people from everywhere here. So you can go to, in Hawaii, if you're ever there on vacation, you can see the Royal Palace where the King and the Queen used to live. Still there. Big tourist attraction. Okay, so now you see what the United States is all about. Each state, uniquely different. Geographically, climate-wise, politically, that's another thing. You see on the news and all that stuff, Democrat versus Republican. When I was a little, it's ever since, that's the good and the bad with TV. When I was a little kid, we got 3 channels. And if you wanted to turn the channel, you had to get the pipe wrench out and turn the antenna to get in the other channel and that. And yeah, politics is in every country. You have politics. Doesn't matter where you are. You got people that say it should be done this way or done that way. And basically, there's 2 political parties here in the United States. I don't know how many there are in the EU, but I know there's a lot more over there than there is over here. And they differ sometimes in philosophy of what's the best path to go down. But don't think for a second. I'm going to pick on California. I have relatives that live in California. I have many, many friends that live in California. I've been to California many times. I don't always agree with the politics of what's going on in California, but I've never, ever, ever doubted their patriotism. They're as red, white, as blue as we are here in West Virginia or any other state. And we will fight to the death to defend that flag, just like we did in the War of 1812. Yeah, I'm going to make 3 more things about the United States and what makes the United States what we truly are. But think about this. We gained our independence. We're now the United States of America. What did the Brits do? They kept referring to us as the colonies because they didn't respect the fact. And the word that I like to use is I truly believe they were jealous. They were jealous of the fact of how quickly the United States took off and became this global power. And they finally, they couldn't take it no more. And they said, you know what? Those colonies, they're still ours. And we can't accept the fact that we lost that war and we're going back and going to take it back. And what they do, they attacked us again. Yeah, the War of 1812. And they actually burnt the White House and the U.S. Capitol to the ground. Nothing but a pile of ashes. Can you believe that? And all the fighting was over here. We didn't go over there and attack them. They came over here and attacked us and said, we're taking it back. Do you think we had the right to be angry? I think we did. But guess what? We defeated them again. And then they finally said, whoa, we're not going to poke that bear in again. But look what happened. A lot of countries, a lot of European countries, a lot of countries all around the world had bitter, bitter enemies and fights and feuds for thousands of years. We're only a 250-year-old country. And look what the Brits did to us. Attacked us again, burned our White House to the ground and the Capitol building. But today, we're great, great friends, allies, and besties. And why is that? It's because we're them. We're all in the family. So I want to talk about that because look what happened in World War I. Oh, go back to War of 1812. That's when Francis Scott Key, who's only buried 45 minutes from where I'm sitting right now, I've been to his gravesite many times, great patriot. In the War of 1812, the Brits are bombing us and attacking us. And I want you to watch a video. I'm going to put a link to it in the description because I don't know how to put it at the end. But in the descriptions of this video, you'll see the link to the Star Spangled Banner as you've never heard it. It's a little short YouTube video. It's only about 10, 12 minutes long. And it'll explain to you better than I possibly can right here and now of what American patriotism is all about and why we will fight to the death to defend that flag just like we did in that War of 1812 when the Brits were bombing and shelling Fort Henry in Baltimore. I've been there. I've seen it all. And I've had people tell me to my face that the national anthem, our national anthem, is a horrible song. It's a warmonger song. You know, it's glorifying bombs bursting in air and the rockets' red glare. You couldn't be further from the truth of what that song is about. Please watch that video. And when you do, you'll say, now I get it. Now I understand why Americans are so patriotic and fly that flag and will defend it to the death. It'll bring a tear to your eye. I guarantee you. And you'll never look at that song again for the rest of your life, the way you don't know what it's all about now. You know, war is hell. It's hell on earth. And it's the last resort. And that's why I'm so proud of the United States and our military. Because what's going on right now as I'm speaking in Iran, you know, think about this, EU, because we've had our differences right now about there's countries in the EU that our military want to use some of your bases and stuff like that. And it says, no, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, think about this. The Iranian people, they don't want anything different than what you want in your countries. When Germany attacked the Nazis, you know, the whole world hated the Germans and the Holocaust and what they did and how horrible that is. And if it wasn't for the United States coming to help our great friends and allies and families, maybe most of Europe would be speaking German today. I think the world would be a whole different place. You know, there's no greater friend or ally that you could have on your side if you're going to go to war than the United States of America. And likewise, there is no greater enemy you would want to have to face than the United States of America. And what's going on in Iran right now, I have friends that are Iranians, Persians. They don't want anything different than us. They want their freedom. They've been under the squashed by the Ayatollahs for 47 years now. And they're afraid to speak up because if they do, a bullet in the head. Just look what happened to that wrestler. And he's just one of tens of thousands that have been murdered for speaking out and saying we don't want and we don't like what's going on in our own country. And we want to be free. He's a world champion wrestler, this young lad. I don't know, what is he? Let's say 20 years old. Went home to his home. That's where he lives. He loves his land. And what'd they do? They murdered him for speaking out. Just awful. Tragic, sad story. And unlike Europeans, we're not going over there to spike our flag down there and claim that. We're not going to do that in Greenland. We're not colonizers. We want what's best for Iran. We want what's best for Greenland or Cuba or Venezuela or anywhere else, the same as we did for every country in the EU in World War I. You know what was the most popular song in World War I? Yeah. You ever see Yankee Doodle with James Cagney? An old movie. Most of the kids here don't even know what it is. But look it up. You can look it up on YouTube. You ever heard the song Over There? There was everybody on the planet knew that song during World War I. Everybody here did. Over there, tell the folks over there to beware and prepare. 'Cause the Yanks are coming, and we won't come back till it's over there. Yeah. You remember that song? How many of you are grateful that the Yanks came? Yeah. Same in World War II. Yep. Okay. And guess what? I said about the Germans and all that. Look where we are today. The Germans great, great friends, great allies, great partners. We've had military bases there ever since World War II. Are they going to continue on? Should Americans still have troops in Germany and all that? Are we there to defend the United States of America? I don't think so. I think we're there to help defend Germany and all of Europe. And we love every one of those countries because they're here. I'm going to wrap it up with just this on the United States, and then I'm going to quickly go to the EU. Who makes up the United States of America? Well, I talked about the indigenous or Native American people. You know how many are in the United States today? 350 million? About 10 million. 10 million natives. And we love our tribes, and they're very patriotic, and they're very red, white, and blue. We wouldn't have won the war in the Pacific against Japan. Just look at how war, like I said, is held. But look where Japan and the United States are today. Great allies, great friends, great partners. I loved when the Japanese Prime Minister was just over here, just like 3 weeks ago, had meetings with President Trump, and she's a brilliant, brilliant, wonderful lady, Prime Minister. And one of their press corps were there in the news conference afterwards was saying about President Trump, the question is, why didn't you share with us about what's going on in Iran and all that and discuss with us? And President Trump had the classic answer, as he usually does. He says, we can't tell you everything. In fact, there's nobody who's better at surprises than Japan. And you could see the Prime Minister of Japan, she looked and she put a smile. She says, you're the master of surprises. Why didn't you tell us about Pearl Harbor? Okay. Before you bomb the snot out of us and killed thousands and thousands of Americans. But that didn't end up too well for Japan either. And war is hell. And my own dad, God bless his soul, he was a B-29 pilot in World War II, stationed in Guam and Saipan, and flew many, many missions bombing in Japan. And my own son, 50 years later, he was in the U.S. Marine Corps. Him and his Marine Corps buddies were on R&R, and they went to Tokyo for a week. And he said it was just a wonderful, awesome experience. Beautiful, beautiful place and city. And they power ran. I got pictures of my dad flying over Mount Fuji, dropping bombs. I got pictures of my son and his buddies starting from the base and running nonstop to the summit of Mount Fuji. Just think about that in my own family and lifetime, and what great friends and allies we are and friends today. And there's a reason for that. In the United States today, this is just random order. There's no rhyme or reason to it, except I'm going to start with Nordic, because I am Nordic, Scandinavian, Sami, super, super proud of my heritage. That's where my family is. You know, in the local cemetery that I grew up in, the town and village, I'm only related to 10 people in that cemetery. But when I'm in Ronio or Haganäs, Sweden, where my grandpa's from Haganäs and my grandma's from up in the Arctic, but Ronio was the big town that they used to come in to get supplies and all that in, and then head back out in the Arctic, lived in their tents. Yeah, I've been there to the little Sami village where they used to come in. We'll talk about that in another video. But so, how many Scandinavian, Nordic, Sami people? There aren't that many Samis here. Maybe 20,000. I'm one of them. Uh, there's 11 million Scandinavian people in the United States of America. French, 8 million. Black, you know, one of my best friends, he and I are really, really close. We're for a long, long time. He lives in Tennessee, and I haven't seen him for quite a while, but he's in my mind a lot, and I know I'm in his. But we're both retired, and he's busy being a grandpa, just like I am. He says, you know what? And he is so patriotic. He served in the military. On the 4th of July, I got pictures of him wearing his shirt, red, white, and blue. And he says, I don't like being called Afro-American. He says, I'm not Afro. Uh, I'm an American. I said, Bill, I'm with you. I agree completely. I don't call myself a Swedish American or a Sami American. I'm proud to be a Sami. I am a USA Sami, and I have that as one of my handles just because that's who I am. But I am an American, and I'm proud to be American. I wished I did not serve in the military because it just didn't work out good. I have friends that served in the military and were killed in wars. And God rest their souls. I'm so grateful for everybody who served in the military. That's why we have our freedom. You don't have freedom if you don't have the strength. And yeah, but blacks, 48 million. Yep. My friend, his family came over on the slave ships about 7, 8 generations ago. They've been here a lot longer than my family has. And he is very patriotic. I can tell you that. Hispanic, Latinos, you know, Spain. We went to war against Spain, Spanish-American War. We love Spain. They're great allies, great friends. There are 65 million Hispanic or Latino heritage people in the United States of America. They're by far the biggest group. Yeah. Germans, you know, I have a lot of German in our own family. I have many friends, German. Why wouldn't I? There's 45 million people with German heritage in the United States of America. Why do you suppose we're great friends with German to this day? Because they're our family. So we hated what you did with the Holocaust and all that stuff, but we forgive. We forgive you. Irish. Just think, little Ireland, when all of the EU and that, there's 35 million people here today that are Irish ancestry and heritage and DNA. The Brits, the English, 46 million. Yeah, a lot of Brits here. Asian. Now this, I think, groups all of, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, let's call them Orientals. 25 million here in the United States of America. Russian. I just threw them in there because I have Russian family in our own family. And we have, I have a lot of friends that are Russian and, Soviet Union countries. 3 million. But they're the biggest country on the planet. That's why I had to say, how many of them are over here? 3 million. So just think about that. That's why we are the melting pot on the entire planet. And I can't imagine the chaos that North America would be in today if We weren't united together. We truly are. Texas benefits from little Rhode Island. Rhode Island benefits from Texas. Same with us. That's what it's all about. That's what made this country as magnificent and great as it is. So let's switch to the EU. There is a big difference. There's a few similarities, but I had a hard time trying to figure out what the similarities are. And we love the EU. I think the biggest similarity is when you're driving around in the EU, just like you here down in the United States, and you drive from West Virginia and you go into Kentucky or Ohio or Virginia or Pennsylvania, any of you cross the street and now you're in Pennsylvania. You might have a welcome sign there, and if you're on the main road, welcome to Pennsylvania, and same when you come back to West Virginia. But if you're in some of the other back roads, you don't even know when you've crossed from one state to the other. And it's the same thing in Europe. You know, when I was just over there with my two sons this summer, past summer, not this one coming up, and we were in Denmark and Sweden and Finland and up into the Arctic, and we said, we have a lot of family and relatives in all the Nordic countries, but we didn't have time to go into Norway. We didn't have time to go into Finland, but we did drive over because we were right up there and just 5 minutes from the border. We said, we got to go over to Finland so we can tell everybody, yeah, we went to Finland on this trip. And you don't even know when you've crossed over on some of them back roads there. So, in fact, we had to say, are we in Finland now? And we were. So that's a similarity. Once you land and clear customs in any one of the EU countries, now you're in the system, and now you can travel around in there. That's okay. And you can do the same thing here in the United States. But you have to clear customs somewhere. And that's a main similarity. So think about this. In the United States, there are 50 states all united together, 14 territories, all Americans, all citizens. Little Guam, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, American Samoa, you can go on and on. They have the same benefits and rights as I do here in West Virginia. That's the benefit of being an American. Don't think we're not proud to be West Virginians, Texans, Alaskans, Puerto Rican, or Guam. Yeah, they are. But we're all the same. There are 27 states in the EU, just like we have 50 states. You can call them countries, but the official term is states. There are 27 member states in the European Union. They use the word union. We use the word united. Pretty similar. But out of those 27 states, there are 24 different official languages in the EU. Wow. In the United States, there's only one official language. There's people that speak many languages here. My whole family growing up, my grandparents, my father, my mother couldn't speak fluent Swedish, but she could fumble her way around it. She couldn't speak German, even though her grandmother couldn't speak to her unless it was in German. But she knew a little bit of it. But we all speak English. That's our official language here. In the EU, we have one president of the United States of America. The EU has 3 presidents. There's a president of the Commission. I don't even know what that is. There's a president of the Parliament, and there's a president of the Council. Who's the supreme leader? I don't know. There are 12 sovereign monarchies in the EU that have been around for thousands of years. I don't see that going away. The EU has 7 different currencies. In the United States, we have one, the US dollar. Here's the big difference. In the EU, if you're a citizen of the European Union, there are 27 different passports. Which passport do you travel under? In the United States, we travel under one, the USA passport. We have our difficulties like all countries do. And that's why we have a president, a Senate, and the Congress. And then we have the Supreme Court. And they resolve all our differences. We love every single country in the EU. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that. 24 different languages in the EU. I don't ever see that changing. I don't. And so I don't know. I don't know if the EU could ever compete with the United States because we truly are united. And that's our motto. It's on it was in our Declaration of Independence. It's on every single coin that every American carries in their pocket. And what is that phrase? E pluribus unum. It's Latin. It means of many comes one. We're all for one and one for all. So think about that. The EU, 27 different passports, 24 different official languages. Yep. There's 7 different currencies. There's 6 EU countries that still use their own currency. And that means then that the rest use the EU. Yep. The euro. That's the word I was looking for. So, and there's each one of the different member states. Most of them are NATO members. If they aren't all, I think they are. No, well, yeah, are NATO members. But look what's happening right now in NATO. And in the EU, there's some countries that are saying, yeah, we'll help you, United States, with what's going on in Iran. Look what's happening with all the Gulf member nations that surround Iran. And they have their Arab League and all that stuff. They're great allies and friends now, turning out partners with the United States. And they're pleading with the United States, don't quit, don't stop. Finish it to the end. Just like that great song in World War One. We're coming over, and we ain't coming back till it's over there. Yeah, because the Iranian people, they're so proud of their heritage too, just like we are here. And when we leave, and we will leave, just like we left all of you in the EU during World War One and World War Two, you're all flying your own individual flags in each one of your countries, your member states. I've traveled in the EU. I don't recall seeing one single EU flag flying in all the countries I was in. I saw plenty of their flags, and they're proud of their flags, just like we are proud of being West Virginians here in West Virginia. And that's great. But I didn't see one EU flag the whole time I was just there this summer. And in fact, I'm going to leave you with this one story. I've said it in another video, but I'm going to repeat it here. My last day of our trip, my two sons and I were sitting in a restaurant in Helsingborg, Sweden, because the very next morning we were going to jump on the ferry boat and just a 20-minute ride right across the water. If you've ever been there, to land back in Denmark, take our car to the Copenhagen airport, turn it in, and jump on the plane and come on back home. So it was a beautiful day, just like today here in West Virginia. And I was wearing a short sleeve shirt. We were on an outdoor patio of this restaurant. Wonderful. I don't even remember the name of it. The food was incredibly awesome. And a gentleman was sitting right beside me, as close as this wall right here, him and his wife. And we're having our dinner, and I noticed him kept looking over at me and looking over, and I know what he was looking at. He was looking at my tattoo, trying to figure out, who is this guy? You know, this is the Royal Swedish Crown and the crest, and that's usually sandwiched together, where the American flag is in here. And you'll see that on all their police cars, all the government buildings and embassies around the world, and all their military planes and ships, and all the athletes, like just in the Olympics, they'll have the three crowns on their jersey. And that, I'm proud of my heritage. As you can tell, I'm proud to be an American. He's over, and finally, he says, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Are you an American?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he says, "What do you think about Donald Trump wanting to buy Greenland?" "Greenland isn't for sale. Greenland is ours, and it's not for sale." Whoa, I'm thinking to myself. He's very passionate. My head, you know, I'm an old grandpa. There's so many things swirling around in my head. It's hard for me to keep on track. I apologize that I've gone on track and different things here. Thank you if you're still watching this. You have the patience of Job. I appreciate it very much. And if you like what you hear, please, you know what they say, do the subscribe and like and share with your friends. I appreciate that. But I'm thinking about, you know, like I explained to you with the Brits and the War of 1812. They couldn't stand it anymore. They attacked us again because the colonies, they still call us the colonies, those are ours, and we want them back. And I could see this guy was very passionate. He could even be a relative of mine. I got a lot of relatives in Denmark. I don't know. But I was thinking of, like I said, I was just up in the Arctic. It's just days before this happened. And as you drive, you know, just like you're driving from one country to the other, but as you're driving from north of Luleå, there in Ronios, or a lot of family, and everybody in that cemetery. I'm related to probably 90% of the people buried in that cemetery. Only rated to 10 in my hometown. quite a moving experience. So as we're driving up on the road heading towards Corunna. And when you drive and you cross the Arctic Circle, there's no line on the road that says you now entered the Arctic, but there's a big monument on the side of the road. It's a beautiful monument. Big stainless steel globe of the world, kind of tilted so you can see the top of the world, the North Pole, and the Arctic, and all the countries that are in the Arctic. And they got flags all around that globe. And I'm looking at them, and I was kind of shocked at first because it wasn't what I was expecting. And I'm looking at them. And so what flags were up there? They had Russia, Finland, Sweden, Norway. I'm going to skip one here. Iceland, Canada, and United States, all in a circle around that globe. What's the one that I missed? Well, in my mind, because remember what I told you about the maps, I was thinking it would be the Danish flag, Denmark. But it wasn't. It was Greenland. There's a Greenland flag flying on that pole. And I thought, how cool is that? And I was very happy to see that there, as it well should have been. So when this gentleman, he's asking me quite passionately, Greenland is ours and it's not for sale. What do you think about that? I said, sir, don't you think whatever's going to happen to Greenland should be decided by and for the great, wonderful people of Greenland? It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Greenlanders think. What's their fate and destiny? What do they want for their future? And that's why I want to talk to Greenlanders, because of my heritage and my family and all my family that lives in the Arctic. And we don't want anything different than, we're not going to come spike our flag down on Greenland. So I'm going to hold that thought back. But when I told that guy that Greenland should control their own destiny and fate, unlike the Virgin Island people that Denmark said, yeah, we'll sell you the Virgin Islands, sold it out from underneath them, maybe. I can tell you this, the people are very, very grateful today to be part of the United States of America. And we're very, very grateful to have them in the family. And it's been good for them, it's been good for us. So I want to discuss some of those things to Greenlanders. Just my opinions from the heart, all from my own head. And I have a very strong connection to Greenland my whole life. And I'm going to share that story with you in an upcoming video. Why I'm so passionate and want nothing but the best for Greenland. So, EU. I think that the future for Europe is tremendous. I don't know how united the EU will be in future things, because I see a lot of division right now today. United States, we are your friends. We've helped you before. We'll help you in the future, just like we're helping the Iranians. And when that is over, we're coming back home, just like the song says. And we ain't coming back till it's over there. And yeah, all of my Iranian friends around here and all the Arab states now, what are they saying? Don't quit. Don't quit until it's done. I hope that's what happens. Thank you, Israel, for being such great. And guess the whole world, the Arab nations, League of Nations and that, they're rallying behind Israel and all the Iranians, thank you for helping us out. And they want to be nothing but best friends like they were for the beginning of mankind. Yeah, they all want to be friends and live in peace and harmony and come into the world as being great partners and friends and allies and neighbors and friends that we all should be. So that's what I hope for the EU. We love the EU. We love all 27 member states because your people are over here. Yeah. You know, I probably should have looked up how many people from Poland are in the United States. There's a lot of Polish people that live in the United States. A lot of people from every country. That's why we love you guys. So thank you for having the patience to stick with us out. I'm sorry it got so long, but it's time for me to wrap this up. Thank you for your time. God bless the United States. God, please bless the EU and anywhere on the planet who's watching this video. We love you. Bye for now.